Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and whatever else you want to call yourself. Welcome to the Toxic Stream of Truth. This is the new thing for other people to say what they need to say. Now, we have a guest with us, Syntax. She, under normal circumstances, would be discussing economic things, but she has an opinion. We love opinions on this show. So I will hand over to the other two and kick it.
I see what you did there.
Thank you.
So, I don't necessarily want to take this one. Syntax, you had things you wanted to talk about, and I want to bounce off of those. So, what you got on your mind?
So many things. Well, where should we start? I mean, we could start with some of the transgender issues that you were discussing. We could discuss many things. There's so much.
Am I allowed to pick where we start?
Yes, pick.
Oh, excellent. Doku, time for you to start singing.
Oh.
He sings? You sing?
He owes me a song. Don't you, Doku?
Can I pick the song?
No. He even knows which song. Don't you, Doku?
Something.
You thought you could get away with it. You thought I'd forgotten, didn't you?
I didn't think you would forget. I just didn't think you'd bring it up in this stream because I thought this was going to be a more serious stream and it was going to be a Syntax airing grievances.
I know. How am I going to be mad and air my grievances if he's singing?
All right. Shall we play nice to Doku today and let him off for now? Okay, for now. Doku, you know I owe me 2 songs.
He's not forgotten.
Fine, I'll give you 2 songs. Damn it.
Thank you.
I'm picking the songs, though.
No, one of them is already pre-picked for you.
Yeah, I know one. They're both going to be sea shanties. Don't worry.
That's okay, then.
And
all yours.
And just to answer the chat real quick, Sharadi and Jacob, this is Syntax. She is part of the Metamaterial families. We talk about metamaterials and investments on Twitter. I engage with her quite frequently, and she is a welcome guest on the show. Please say hello.
Hi, guys. Yeah, so I'm also a social worker. I was a licensed social worker, but that's kind of a fun story. So the interesting thing about academia, particularly in the social sciences, is they tend to be very, very, very liberal, right? And if you have a viewpoint that's contradictory to their established liberal viewpoint, then that's not good, right? So they'll hold your license hostage in a sense. So like if you say or do anything that contradicts them, politically, may it be, let's say the border issues, because I was licensed in Arizona. If you have a contrary opinion, then they can make you go to an ethics committee, right? So they basically it's like a grandstanding show where they put you basically on trial and they can take your license from you. So I made the choice to let my license lapse because I just didn't want to have anything that someone could take from me or hold above my head. So that's kind of where I am now. So that means that I can't do like clinical work. I can still, I still have my master's in social work, so I can still utilize that. But it's kind of interesting being kind of the odd one out in that belief system, even though I wouldn't say that I'm really radical in my beliefs. I'm very, very centered, but I think we're at a place now where if you don't subscribe to the leftist extremism, you get a lot of hate. And that's kind of what I was talking to Doku about. And I was like, I want to go on your show because I'm catching so much hate. It's crazy.
You know something? It's a good job you guys don't actually live in the land of Oh, yeah, that's right. You do, don't you?
We do. We do live in the land of the free.
Don't you guys have a thing about free speech? I seem to remember that being mentioned somewhere. It can't be important. No, hardly anyone talks about it. I can't see where that could be a thing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no. Well, because we live in the land of the offended.
Yeah,
That's I mean,
true.
the triggered, right?
Well,
So-
you know it's pretty funny when someone like Elon Musk can come out and say, "Hey, I'm gonna buy 51% of the shares in your public company." That I don't know, you're a public company. No, we're gonna have to stop you from buying shares in this public company because we can't engage in a free market. And God forbid that this person wanting to engage in the free market is a advocating for free speech, because we can't have that now, can we? It's a
Oh, I
threat to
know.
our democracy. So
That's
by
where I cut a lot of
democracy,
it.
but this is my question. If free speech or advocating for thereof is a threat to your democracy, then do you live in a totalitarian regime and you need to protect it? Because that's what it sounds like to me.
Well, and here's my other question: Has platforms like Twitter, Facebook, have they reached the point where, I mean, granted they're private companies, but have they become like a utility? Like you would have your phone companies or your TV companies, and if that's the case, does it? I mean, does it abide by different rules at that point because it's not protected by the private company? Essentially, does that make sense?
One moment,
So
one moment, please. I believe we've gone past the 5-minute point, so fuck that. Say what you like now.
oh,
All
thank
yours.
fucking God.
I can't
So
do it, guys.
well, don't worry. We'll pick up the
You do
slack
it for
for you.
me. Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, I see it here. The social workers tend to be leftist. Are you woke? No, they do. They do tend to be leftist. No, I'm not woke. No,
Mhm.
I'm not. I got in
But
trouble in
so-
school for that.
So syntax to answer your question. So when certain things in society became essentially integral, like to the point where you couldn't really operate on a reasonably functional level without them, things like the telephone, they were declared public utilities.
Yes.
So what Section 230 does specifically is it prevents people from suing. Let's just use Twitter as the example. If I said something about you or Jensen on Twitter, you could go after me, but you can't go after Twitter. That's originally what the thought process behind it was. Now, that also gives Twitter certain protections where they can say, I can ban you. Like, for example, a couple of weeks ago when Elon Musk came out with his whole I'm going to buy Twitter for $54.20 a share. And that post started popping up where in their terms of service, anybody that's talking about hostile takeovers of a company is going to be banned. It's like, you change that just to cover your own asses. That they should not be allowed to do. Because at that point in time, they're not acting as a platform. They're acting as a publisher because they're actively censoring things. They're choosing who is allowed to say certain things. They're choosing who's not allowed to say certain things. And they're doing it based upon a bias with, in this case, a politically driven motive, which should remove Section 230 protections from them. And I agree that at this point in time, even if it's going to open up a completely new can of worms, those protections should be removed because platforms like Twitter and Facebook, not only are they now acting as publishers, choosing to censor or not censor people based upon openly politically biased opinions, but you have platforms like Facebook actively donating money or financing campaigns, directly engaging in the electoral process. You're sure as shit not protected under Section 230 for that. So I don't know if they're just that arrogant, or if they're that stupid, or if they're trying to shoot themselves in their own foot. Even like you see Jack Dorsey coming out now that he's basically washed his hands of Twitter, stating shit that you would never expect woke Dorsey to say. But now he's coming out and be like, yeah, the Twitter board of directors sucks. You're not allowed to say certain shit. I'm not sure if they're trying to sabotage the platforms that they actually sought out to create. Like, if they regret selling their souls to the proverbial devil. I'm not sure what they're trying to do, but it definitely seems to me that the direction things are going in, at least 2 or 3 years ago, we seem to be moving more towards a totalitarian state, and that seems to be crumbling very, very quickly. And I'll end on this point. People don't trust the mainstream media because they've recognized it as overtly biased propaganda. And the only thing you really have at this point in time is trying to control people's ability to engage and interact with each other and essentially steer the conversation into a way that you want it to go so that you can manipulate their opinions and force a particular type of outcome. And that's really what the prospect of someone like Elon Musk coming in and buying Twitter, that's why it scares the shit out of them, because they don't.
I love it.
They don't care. Well, they don't care about the aspect of Twitter being a profitable company, because the board members collectively don't own shit when it comes to Twitter stock, because they know it's not profitable. What they care about is controlling the conversation, manipulating the flow of information, and essentially doing what the media has already admitted to at least twice now. It's our job to tell people what to think. That's really where the value of Twitter lies. It's not about making money. It is a political propaganda tool, and they all fucking know it, and they think we're too stupid to realize it. It's only now that they realize. Well, it's only now that they realize we're not as dumb as you think we are. We see what the fuck you're doing, and we're calling you out for it. And that's why they want to fucking ban you, because they don't want more people waking up to the fact that, yeah, it's all fucking propaganda.
Oh yeah. And then the rage, the baseless rage that they use. I mean, you can speak truth, or I mean, you can even just try and have a conversation, and they just get so angry. And I remember one person, it was talking about Elon Musk, and they were like, "Oh, God save us from people like you." I'm like, people like me? Okay. Because I was just talking about people having the ability to have conversations and have, instead of being stuck in an echo chamber, to have diversity of thought. And the idea of diversity of thought is what horrified them. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're screwed. We're so screwed.
Well, it's kind of funny, isn't it? Like, I know it shouldn't be funny, but it does amuse me where I was talking to Jensen about this earlier. The idea of individuals who are not controlled by the umbrella of social media, or even on listening to mainstream media, where they're not just repeating regurgitated talking points, but actually having a legitimate one-on-one conversation and formulating their own opinions, that shit terrifies them. We can't have free speech. That's a threat to our democracy.
Yeah.
What they really mean is you thinking for yourself and not believing what you're told is a threat to their control. That's really why they're afraid. It has nothing to do with them being afraid about free speech. They could ban you very easily. What they're afraid of is that people stop listening to them. And that's really what it's about.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what's so terrifying, because if you can't sit with somebody who has a different opinion than you, I mean, we're lost. If you can't entertain the idea that somebody may have different views, and that's okay. I mean, what kind of hate-filled world are we going to live in? And it's so funny, because this is the party that's supposed to be the accepting, right? And yet, at the same time, they're very selective on who they can sit with and listen to and have discussions with. And it's kind of really interesting to see, what causes their championing. So, we don't have to delve into this now, but like the whole trans movement, and how that affects feminism. how that affects the LGBTQ community. It's just, there's so many inconsistencies. It's just fascinating to see. It's like they're self-imploding. So yeah, we live in interesting times.
And that's the thing, is they want to be able to propagate their ideas, but they don't want to be challenged on them. Because if and I know you've seen some of the back and forths I've had on Twitter.
Oh yes.
It doesn't end with them making any logical points. It ends with two things. They either resort to ad hominem attacks, misrepresenting arguments, trying to force you on the defensive and control the conversation so that only their point gets out there, and they make you look like the bad guy, even if it's a flat out fucking lie. And if that doesn't work, they get extremely defensive and start trying to say, you're trying to slander or smear me or say I'm this and that. And it's like, well, no, I never said that. That's also
You're
a fucking
racist
lie.
Nazi. That's what you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You're
they don't.
This white male.
Yeah, but they can't engage in honest debate and defend their own opinions because, well, they're not good ones. If they try to, it's the whole reason they're pissed off at the libs of TikTok. I didn't say let's say if I was the libs of TikTok. Let's just assume I'm the libs of TikTok.
You Nazi.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything about you. I'm literally just showing people what you yourself have said.
Yeah.
I might give my opinion here and there, but the majority of everything that I'm showcasing, everything I'm quote, quote, signal boosting, all this is shit that you guys say. This is shit that you support. This is the shit that you're defending. I'm not doing anything. This is you guys. I'm just acting like a mirror. If that upsets you, then maybe you guys are in the wrong.
Oh, let me answer a question. Do I say Sharati? Sharati. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So the Q in queer, it was a reclaiming of something that was viewed as negative to make it positive. That's why the Q is in LGBTQ. Just FYI.
You do realize that LGBTQ is actually in itself wrong, given the attitude most lately. How can you be bi if there's more than two genders? After all, I believe it's 47 was the last time.
There's pansexual and there's a lot, and I probably have a more liberal viewpoint on some of those things, but then I also I fluctuate. I don't know. We don't need to talk. But back to what Doka was saying, I think sometimes they lack logic, but they're passionate and they're trying to virtue signal. And in doing so, they become very emotional and they lack the logical ability to be rational. I don't know. The virtue signaling is a huge problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Let's just delve into it. Can we?
Please.
Okay, so, and you actually did hit the nail on the head on that one. Their arguments are grounded in an appeal to emotion. They're not grounded in logic. And when you try to approach them in a logical manner or even a reasonable manner, if you're not appealing to that emotion, if you're not trying to reaffirm their biases, they will reject you. And they're children. I'm just going to be perfectly blunt about it. I'm not going to be nice about it. They are children who got participation trophies for their entire fucking lives, have everything fucking handed to them, and all of a sudden wonder why the real world, dealing with adults who really do not care about your fucking opinions or emotions, are looking at them and treating them like they're fucking children. And they throw fucking temper tantrums, and we sit there and say, you never got spanked as a kid, did you? And then they freak the fuck out. Like, what are you talking about spanking me? This mean, this abuse. It's like, shut the fuck up. Nobody cares, you overgrown fucking petulant child.
I think it's a difference between, there's something called your internal locus of control and your external locus of control. So there's people who feel like they have the ability to control their destiny, right? That they can make a difference in their lives. And then you've got people who have an external locus of control and they feel like everything is done to them or for them, right? And so those are the people that I feel like they think that the government needs to be in charge. It needs to take care of them. They can't take care of themselves. Other people aren't competent enough to take care of themselves. And I think that's a huge difference between, the liberal and conservative viewpoints. Is you've got people who are fighting for their own freedoms on one side, and they feel like they can make the best choices for themselves and control their destiny. And it's just this opposition of thought.
Well, yeah, one side wants a parent and the other side wants you to move the fuck out of the way and leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah. One of them's like, damn it, I get my participation trophy. And the other one's like, well, I didn't win.
Doku, are you trying to say that the lefties are looking for their daddy?
Yes, that's exactly what they're doing. They're looking for someone to take care of them. They're looking for someone to make decisions for them. They're looking for they're looking for anyone except themselves because they cannot take personal accountability. They cannot rationalize their own opinions. They cannot rationalize their own positions. They don't know how to accept outside opinions that don't fit into the check boxes that they're accustomed to. They are emotionally incapable of operating in a world that does not go on every single baseline that falls in line with how they perceive the world. They are incapable of coming to the conclusion that not everyone thinks and acts the same way.
But you know what? That's something that's being exploited. And I would say that it's both from, the Republican Democratic camps, just because I tend to be a little bit more libertarian. Anybody in power is going to exploit that, right? Because, they need me, right? That gives me power. It's sick. That's how you see socialism and communism, and it's sad, but that's where we're headed, right?
I'll be perfectly honest about this, and this might be one of the most honest things I've ever said. I do, to some degree, manipulate these individuals, but not for the sense of utilizing them to push my own goal or agenda. I manipulate them because I don't have to do jack shit. I just have to let them talk. So, yeah, I know that they might say certain things, and I know what direction they're going to go down. I'm going to push them down that direction simply because I want other people, and this is exactly why they're pissed off at libs of TikTok. Yeah, I want them to show everybody else this is what they believe, this is how they act, this is how they interact with other people. I want them to expose themselves. I don't really have to do jack shit. And my only goal behind it is this. You're either siding with this person who has the emotional maturity of a 5-year-old, or you're siding with someone who still might be left-leaning or centrist or conservative or libertarian, but they can at least hold a logical conversation with somebody who disagrees with them. And
without spewing hate. Because you're very civil when you're on. It's very fascinating to watch you. It's like a dance, and you're very civil, and they get very emotional and heated, and then they discredit themselves with their rage.
We're about to have Batman join us.
I don't know if I'm civil, but
you do well.
Hello, civil. Oh, you said civil. Sorry.
I do have. Before you do go on, Batman, I'd like to make a point. If the left are, as you said, looking for their daddy and where they want to be told what to do and someone else take over, etc., which you have made quite clear that you truly believe that is the case, yes? So why not get out of the way and let the right take over like we're meant to do?
I don't think they are. I think they're the sport brat who wants to be in charge of everything but does not have either the intellectual or the emotional capability to do so. Most of the people on the left, the useful idiots, that is, they've been infantilized. They have not been allowed to suffer the knocks and scrapes and insults and injuries which allow you to grow up emotionally.
I don't disagree at all.
They're
Right.
children in adult bodies who think they're grown up, they want to be treated like grown-ups, but they don't want any of the responsibilities or duties of a grown-up.
And on top of that, when they fail, they blame other people for it because because they've never had the chance to accept their own failures and learn and grow from it. They think it's everybody else's fault. It's like, no, it's not. It's yours. And
That's what they've been told every step of their lives. It's not your fault. Oh, it's
Shirati has the thing.
no, I would not inflict Amber Heard on my worst enemy's best friend.
Not even
On my
on-
worst enemy, yes, but on his best friend, no.
Okay.
You know
Are
what?
you happy now, Shirati? Right, before we continue, Batman, this is Syntax. Syntax is
Hi.
Batman. Batman is a northern person with opinion. I mean, oh yeah, he's a northern person.
Hello, Syntax, and yes, I do have opinions. Everyone's got an opinion. They're like arses.
I would hope so. If they're not, we're in deep trouble.
Yes, the opinions are like arses. Everybody's got one, and they're usually foul smelling.
I'm okay with that.
And so before we move on, I do actually kind of want to touch on to what Jacob said. Jacob, all right, there's an elephant in the room that needs to be addressed. If you want things to change, you're going to have to force what you want to happen and be present in all of society. I don't disagree with you, Jacob. That is the reason I engage in the way that I engage other individuals with. Not because I'm really trying to force it's not because I'm trying to force my mindset on other people. I don't need to. All I need to do is let them. Sorry, Batman.
Sorry.
All I need to do is let these individuals say what they believe, and that shit's gonna burn down real fucking quick.
That's the beauty of free speech. But I see you were using an analogy there when you said there's an elephant in the room, because you said that and I started looking for MC.
No. In his case, the elephant is the room.
Let me ask you a question, because when you say take control, like what are you meaning? Like the Republican Party, or who would take control?
I don't care so long as they're competent.
Because I don't feel like the Republican Party is competent. I'm going to put that out there.
I would say that the vast majority of our political professionals, politicians, they're not competent. They've become separated from the common herd.
Yes.
And that's a disastrous thing. It didn't used to be this. Usually, these people came from, be they lawyers, be they people who own and run businesses, or even people who just work for a living. They came from the workforce. They came from, even in the United Kingdom, they came from the people. Even if they were upper class, they came from the people. Now, they leave school, they go to university, and then straight into politics. They never touch the real world. They're divorced from us.
Yep, they're disconnected.
They have no right to be in control of our countries because they don't know what they're doing.
Well, and that's the thing I've noticed amongst, especially on social media, when you look at people who are more conservative or libertarian or right of center or even centrist, and you look at how they talk about the left, it's basically the way that we've described them. They're petulant children that are looking for a daddy or a mommy to take care of them, so they never have to take accountability for their actions. We look at them as children. We don't view them as adults. But when you look at how that same group looks at the Republican Party, especially the ones that have been in power for a long time, we want them the fuck out. Like, you want to look at someone who's actually hypercritical of someone who's technically on your own side. Look no further than what the Republican Party is doing and saying in regards to other Republicans.
Like Mitt Romney?
Again, I've got to disagree with you on your interpretation of the loony left. They're not looking for a mummy or a daddy. They're the spoilt, petulant kid who wants attention. It's not, where's my mummy and daddy? It's, look at me, aren't I so brilliant?
Virtue signal.
Yeah,
Well, but that's the thing about the left, though. The left is sitting there bitching about Trump, even though Trump's not in office. They're blaming Republicans. They're blaming everybody who's not on their ideological side.
which eventually, that's why they eat their own.
Well, and it's a bunch of fucking finger pointing, saying like, but you did this, you did that. It's like, yeah, all of that's in the past. Like, what are you guys actually doing? They can't say a damn thing. They say, well, you did this. It's just a bunch of whataboutism, ad hominem attack. You know,
There's a perfect
bunch of
one.
bullshit.
There's a perfect video that explains what the loony left are. You ever heard of Dark Matter 2525?
Can't say I have.
He's kind of an anti-theist, really, but he did this one where God, right? He's heard about the SJWs on the left, and he decides he wants to be one. So he gets all of the big SJWs into heaven, kicks everybody else out, and they start. Yeah, the SJWs being what they are, they need somebody to pick on. So yeah, there's less and less of them, and eventually, the only person in heaven is this single female SJW wandering about going, triggered. That's what they are, and that's their fate.
I'll actually answer the question. Actually, I agree the Republicans aren't necessarily good at what they do, but I would suggest possibly the Conservatives. Now, I'm not suggesting the British Conservatives, but man, just before you
We
think
don't
I
have
am.
any anymore.
Sorry, mate, what was that?
We don't have any anymore, apart
This is a
from
fair
Rees-Mogg.
statement. This is a fair statement. I'm actually taking the idea of conservative in and of its basics. Okay, those that actually want things to be better, not those that want to whine about things or those who want to slow down, calm down Democrats. No, none of that unfortunately works anymore. It's become very obvious it's failing. So how about allowing someone else to actually have a chance to change the way things are set up?
But
That is my opinion.
But that's where the problem lies. Like, okay, so for in the United States, we have a two-party system, right? Technically, we have other parties, but theoretically, I mean, the money and the power is in the two parties. They don't even give an option for other parties to present themselves at political debates. So how are they going to get heard? I mean, they're censoring other voices.
I completely agree with you, hon. Over here, officially, we are a three-party system, but let's be as blunt as humanly possible.
We're a one-party system, and that one party has three different names.
Oh.
And I wouldn't even necessarily say that we've got three different names. We've got two different names because, let's be honest, for the Liberal Democrats to actually stand a dog's chance in hell of actually doing anything, it would take every single person in Labour and every single person in Conservative to die. And I still think...
And every single person in UKIP and,
that's my point.
Britain First to die. And even the Greens to die.
Yep. Truly, if they were in the fight on their own, they'd still possibly lose. In fact, actually, possibly... I'm actually changing that to most likely to lose.
Actually,
they are that
Jensen,
bad.
Even if everybody in the country who wasn't a Lib Dem voter died, they still wouldn't get into power.
Disturbingly, you are probably correct.
What would it take for them to self-implode, though? Like, how bad does it have to get?
They have many times.
Yes. They get to the point of almost absolute destruction, and then they scrape their way back up to completely being irrelevant, and then someone else puts them in power because they need those one or two votes that the Liberal Democrats get to actually give them power, which is what happened with the Conservatives a couple of years ago. They are unfortunately nobody. So we have basically two parties, and given what we're stuck with right now, we have, as I like to term him, the hairy potato, Boris Johnson, And then
they're calling him the Klingon Prime Minister now.
oh, we've gone to that, have they? Okay.
Yeah.
And we've got
Mr. Borf.
I'm trying to understand how the hell we've got this, but in charge of the party of the people, the party of the working class, the party of the underdogs, Sir Keir Starmer. Just wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would describe that to the Americans, but that is diametrically opposed to what Labour is supposed to be. They're being run by a sir.
Well, it's all about power.
Yeah.
It's funny you bring that one aspect up because in regards to how we view the left and the right, at least here in the United States, I haven't seen a lot of people bring this up because it should be obvious based upon the name of what people call themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But it really is split into four parts. Two parts being on one side of the political coin, and obviously the opposite two being on the other. But you'll have someone who says they're a Democrat. They believe in democracy. Essentially, they're saying they believe in mob rule, something that the founding fathers were completely against. But
yes,
so they believe in that idea. You have someone who claims that they're a liberal, or now in today's terms, a progressive. They believe that how society was in the past is no longer good. It has to change. We need to progress our ideas. We need to be more liberal in our thought process or our thinking.
That's really not the description of liberals that I grew up with there.
Well, but I'm
modern liberal, yeah.
But I'm saying just how it is in the U.S. Like, because
that's how it is the world over.
Yeah, but liberals in the United States, they're really more progressive. They don't really care if the idea works or doesn't. Yeah. They don't care if the idea works or doesn't work. They just think the idea needs to change because the world needs to progress.
The party of change, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. When I was a kid and a young man, a liberal wouldn't change something if it worked, and they didn't view like the Victorian era as bad. It was just not as efficient as the 20th century, especially the late 20th century. Which, let's face it,
that sounds too rational.
With all the reforms and improvements that the Victorians did and later the Edwardians did to British society, it was a lot better.
Yes.
Well, and so here's the other side of the coin, though. When you're talking about conservatives want to conserve certain ideas or certain aspects of culture or certain aspects of government because those aspects work. They don't need to change. That's why you get the stereotype of a bunch of old white men who don't want to change. They don't see the future. And then on the same side of that coin, you get Republicans where they're saying, no, we're not a democracy. We're a republic. And this is my more favorite go-to. I don't believe that, a latte drinking yuppie in New York City should be telling what a corn farmer in Kansas should be doing. We're a republic. We're separated by states, and those states make their own decisions for that reason. You drink lattes and sit in a cubicle all day. You don't know how to fucking farm corn. You shouldn't be dictating how the corn farmer does things, and vice versa. Someone who farms corn who doesn't know how accounting works, doesn't have a Series 7 degree, it shouldn't be telling people how to, keep the books. It's just not the same. Like, and all four of those sides have a balance. If you have a well-balanced society that, and you're being honest and you're capable of realizing that you're not going to have the same life experiences, you're not going to be living in the same areas, you're not going to be dealing with the same things. As long as you can come to those sort of conclusions and try to find some sort of middle ground, you will have a somewhat well-functioning society. But when one side of that coin wants to hyper focus power and completely exclude all the other sides and just credit them completely, then you end up with a society that's doomed to failure.
That's the kind of diversity that a healthy society requires, which up until very recently we did have and strove for. I mean, difference of opinion, different of outlook, difference of ideologies is what drove our universities, is what produced these these people who furthered our civilization. You know, the likes of Newton, Einstein, some random American guy who was rather smart. Sorry, I had to be a bit bitchy there because I'm English.
Okay. Just so as it's been stated, Charity has pointed out that this country is a republic with democratic tendencies, or at least it's supposed to be that way.
I see Nonads is in the chat.
Yes, I've given him the opportunity if he wants in, he's to let me know. The Syntax, you'll find Nomad interesting. He is somebody more opinionated than pretty much all three of us put together.
Yes, and he constantly saves the Earth. I mean, he's responsible for the asteroid belt not being able to form into a single planet.
This is very true. And Nomad DMs.
You'd know him better as Jupiter. not the Roman god, but the gas giant planet.
Yes.
So not Uranus.
What's our
Not
saying?
Uranus.
What's our saying about Nomad? God said, "Let there be light," and Nomad yelled and said, "Turn out the lights."
That's the one.
No, yeah. God yelled, "Let there be light," and then asked Nomad to move because he was blocking it.
That's also the other option. Yes. Well, hopefully he'll be joining us and he'll be amazing us with his delicate understanding of the universe. It's not
you mean he'll be yelling at everybody and blaming the hippies?
Pretty much, yeah.
Hey, Doku, did you want to talk DSM?
Oh yeah, you saw that little thread / rant that I went on yesterday, huh?
Mm-hmm. Because do you know the DSM is the mental health Bible? I'm very versed.
Yeah, I still love that one individual that sent me a link that had absolutely nothing to do with the DSM and the World Health Organization, trying to completely discredit it as being something valid, which they'll
come out with another DSM and it'll completely change. It's just how it works.
Well, I hate to break it to individuals.
Doku, one sec. Hey, Nomad. Good to see you, mate.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello, Slow Brad.
Do carry on. I wanted to do hellos.
But yeah, I hate to break it to people, but yeah, there is such a thing as gender dysphoria. It is a mental illness. It does exist. And oh, by the way, there's a reason that we say trans. It's because you weren't originally one biological sex or the other, with the exclusion of genetic deformities and birth defects.
Now, the reason we say trans is because these people want to transition from one thing to another. Trans is merely a prefix.
And that's exactly my point. You are trans. You have transitioned.
No, if you've transitioned, you are no longer really trans.
This is true, actually.
And that's what people I know in real life and online who actually are either transgender or transsexual have told me.
Yes, but there's a process for a majority of people that's a continual process that includes hormones, correct, for the rest of your life. So I mean, it's a continual process of transition, and I'm not inherently against, the idea of people.
If it makes your life more bearable.
I have issues with sports, and if we're going to look at mental health and forcing children to have hormone blocks.
So do most of the transgender people, and most of them don't adhere to this community.
Yes.
Because they're the trans trenders.
It's fascinating. It's so fascinating. So there was a female golfer from the Netherlands. I'm not sure exactly where she was from, but she transitioned or started her process in the early 90s. And she was talking about her frustration with women's sports because you've got people on these varying levels of transition where like they may just really have the physical body of a male and the hormones of a male and trying to be playing in female sports.
Even when they fully transition, they still have more body mass, better muscles, and heavier bones than a natural woman.
So where are the feminists? Why are they not screaming? I mean, we have fought for women to have equal opportunities at sports, and now it's just heartbreaking.
That's not what they were fighting for. That's not what the leaders of the feminist movement were ever fighting for.
They were fighting for upper class women to have more privileges and less responsibilities.
No, they were fighting for Marxism. These people are leftists. If you don't understand this, these people are leftists. Okay, these people are Marxists. Okay?
Maybe he's in America.
It's the only country that counts, Batman. I'm sorry. I tell you this. I know
come on. We all know that most Americans can't count. No, in the UK, the suffering jets, as I call them, they were terrorists, and they were after women's suffrage, right? At a time when the working class man didn't have a vote, but they wanted a £10 levy on the vote, which a working class woman would never be able to afford. They only wanted the vote for upper class women, who actually women could vote if they owned land, the same as their male counterparts in the UK. So, yeah.
So technically, it wasn't sexism; it was classism.
In the US, it doesn't work that way.
In the US, it just doesn't work.
No, the U.S. works fine when things are correct. Now, Doku was saying something about society earlier and about allowing people to work to have their own opinions even if you disagree with them and so forth, right? Mm-hmm. But if you go back to history, right? We had something I know on this channel. It's something rare that I ever mention it, right? Called the Civil War. Now, Civil War was people trying to kill one another. And yet when they put the country back together, both sides had to set aside that animosity in order to become a nation again. Right? Well, no, they did for a while, but now that animosity is all that other people see. And you have people today that they weren't part of the war. They never had to engage in how destructive it became. And yet now they're the ones who are driving this attitude of saying, well, I don't want to sit up there and tolerate your political thinking, your thought processes anymore. All right. And it's because right now, the way our society is in this country is the hyper focus on me, the hyper focus on my feelings, and the fact they've been told by a bunch of morons, leftists, because it allows them to control them easier. Okay, your reality is what you make of it. This way I can control you by having you just live in your feelings. And the fact that we concentrate on feelings and we let people go, oh, your feelings are more important than anything else. Well, that's all well and good until, of course, somebody else's feelings disagree with yours. Then yours are still the ones we're supposed to be acquiescing toward. All right. Instead of saying, okay, what is best for society? These people are parasites. These people are Marxists that believe they can rule over everybody else.
You have actually hit a nail on the head. Sorry for jumping on you there, Syntax. That's it. The feeling bit. That's it. The feelings are paramount. They even supersede intellect, reason, and fact. When I was a kid, when MC was a kid, and I suspect possibly when Doku, if Doku ever was a kid.
No, he was born an old man.
Somebody asks you your opinion, and you would start the sentence with, I think. Not now. It's I feel.
Well, do you guys know where feelings come from? Like, let's just go into the mental health of feelings, right? Feelings are derived from thoughts. Like, there's this whole cognitive behavioral therapy, which is like the huge therapeutic modality. So you have a thought, right? And your thoughts are what creates your feelings create your moods. So the belief is that if you can change your thoughts, you can change your feelings. But who's controlling your thoughts?
I think I always thought it was the other way around, because when you make a decision, I mean, there are people who have brain injuries, right? Or are born with a brain defect where
Like a
they
TI
have,
or
have no emotions, right? They're completely devoid of emotions. These people cannot make decisions because they have no emotions. Therefore, they cannot like or dislike something.
In my opinion, and
that is an important thing to have, to be able to make decisions.
In my opinion, all right.
Hold on, no, that's I haven't finished. But most people, most of the time, when you make a decision, you make it on what you like or dislike, and then you rationalize it.
Oh yeah, there's thinking traps, right?
Yeah, a lot of times when it's an important decision, you will choose something that you don't like because you've thought it through, and you realize that the thing you don't like is actually the best decision. But that's not normally the case.
No, because some people will go with what's more comfortable, but they're afraid of what.
Right, but that goes to the fact that feelings are a reaction to outside stimulus.
Yes, they are.
Right, they're not a thought process. They're not thinking on thoughts. They're a reaction to outside stimulus.
But they influence thoughts.
No, they do. That is very true. They do influence thought.
I mean, we can't move aside from the fact that our emotions are an important part of us.
I never said that.
They were developed over millions of years of evolution. If they were detrimental or useless to us, we wouldn't have them. But they cannot be allowed to override our intellect.
I'll put it very simply. Your emotions might influence your thoughts. Yeah, that's correct. Of course they will. But your emotions don't matter.
I disagree. I completely disagree.
I disagree as well. But like I said,
okay, all right. I'll take 2 on 1.
Batman, shush. Syntax
okay, Mom.
Good, you're learning your place. Syntax,
wait,
please,
say that again. You'll take 2 on 1. Is that what you said, Doku?
Yeah, I'll take 2 on 1. I'm willing to have this debate.
I've heard that this is a thing for you.
Oh, Jensen, you know me so well.
I know.
I'm wearing a hazmat suit.
It explains his hair now, doesn't it? The freaking
it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not a fucking hippie. Damn you, no, Matt.
Actually, I'm wearing a hazmat suit and I'm using a remote-controlled Android.
And your hazmat suit's gonna help against the fucking heavy flamer.
I'm not saying that feelings are more important. I'm just saying feelings do matter. And
yes.
Understanding when people are coming from an emotional state. I mean, granted, when people make decisions after something catastrophic happens because it's an emotional reaction, that's generally a bad thing. Like, let's talk about the Patriot Act, right? That was a very bad thing that came after crises, in a very emotionally charged point in time. It was a bad choice.
Strongly think that the Patriot Act was ready to be moved before the horrible action. That was just a good excuse to shove it through.
Oh yeah, because people were in an emotional state and they could. It'll keep me safe.
Yep. It's like the banning of handguns in the UK because some nutter went crazy in a primary school up in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I still stand by my point. I understand that you're coming from an emotional state and that influences how you're going to act, interact, and react to things. But I still don't care about your emotions. They're not fundamentally logical. It doesn't mean that there's a good thought process behind it. I do not care about your emotions. Your emotions don't matter. If you can't think things through logically and come to a logical conclusion, your emotions at best are something to consider, but are not really relevant. But at worst, are going to lead you down a path or lead you to a conclusion that is not just detrimental for you, but detrimental for everyone else around you because you're acting emotionally, or as you put it, Batman, acting like a petulant child.
Yeah, sometimes your your emotions are important, but it's also important to keep control of them.
Yes.
A diplomat who has no emotions is a terrible diplomat.
Yes.
He would fail at his job or her job.
He wouldn't, or he or she would not connect to the people.
Your emotions keep you in touch with other people.
So you're making the argument for empathy.
Yeah. And one thing about empathy, which makes me laugh, people think that an empathic person is going to be a good person. No, not necessarily. If you're of an empathic nature, doesn't necessarily mean you're a good person. It might mean that you're a very manipulative, devious person, and you can get away with it because you can read people's emotions and know how to play them.
All right, so then I want to be very clear about this. When I say your emotions don't matter, I'm not saying that you should disregard them or throw them away. What I'm saying is your emotions should not influence your decisions when you're trying to make a logical decision or how you should interact or how you should conduct yourself.
Well, you heard my explanation of the decision-making processes, didn't you?
Batman, my turn. Does that mean, Doku, that you actually agree with me at the idea that we should have a ruling electronic council, i.e. computer and or robot?
I am not going to do what Dr. fucking Theophilus from Buck Rogers in the 25th century tells me.
Oh, that's just it. Doku's argument is, yes, you are.
No, he isn't.
And where Doku falls down, since nobody wants to actually correct him, I'll do it.
Oh,
Right.
okay. Okay.
And if MC,
you say that. All right. First of all, I want to identify that there's a difference between feelings and emotions. Okay, that's number one. Number two,
what's the difference?
when you, I'll explain that later. All right.
Yes,
But
I would love to hear your definition.
You will explain it now, damn it!
I will not explain it now. All right. But
Okay.
when you
Fair
talk,
enough.
remember, these things are a reaction to outside stimuli. There are times, all right, when your fear response, your fight response is the right answer, and you don't have time to think or rationalize things.
You're
Right,
talking
so
about
to say-
endorphins.
So to say, well, it's not just that. It's
Your
not just
fight or-
endorphins.
Your fight or flight response is not actually emotional; it's instinctual.
No, yeah.
But you say that it's instinctual, but that is feelings and emotions are instinctual as well.
Yes,
Because
but not the fight.
because they are the same thing. They are a reaction to outside stimuli.
They're the same thing in that they're a reaction to outside stimuli, but something like the fight. Most of our instincts come from the reptilian side of our brain, which does not have the capacity for emotion.
No, but when you're talking about outside stimuli, if you've never encountered something that was dangerous before, your fight-flight response doesn't kick in. Okay, this is the difference. Okay,
Generally,
you
it
guys
does.
say that it's instinctual. It's not unless some other experience in your life has created this around you. So, and I'm not saying that
The
overall.
startle effect of an infant?
A startle effect of an infant comes from its stimulus as to sound and not recognizing it.
Even the smallest child is frightened of snakes and spiders and things because that's instinctive.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
There are certain.
I'm going to post a
Shapes
picture of
and
my little
types.
children holding tarantulas.
Seriously, there are certain shapes and types which are imprinted into our genetic memory, which trigger instincts. Most children, maybe it's not yours, but most children are instinctively scared by bugs and snakes and bears and tigers and lions.
Oh, that's the thing, though. I don't consider that to be an emotion.
It isn't. It's a baseline instinct.
Yeah, but those instincts that you're referring to are not because of sight. Those are normally because of things like pheromones, which people don't recognize at the time, but your body does.
Well,
Right.
that's not the way it's been explained on science videos I've watched. It's the actual.
Do kids watching a snake or watching a spider on television immediately revolt and immediately recoil? No.
It's a learned for the most part, but your amygdala is what controls your emotions.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying that these things aren't
and
part
that's
of
based
this,
on memory too.
right?
Yeah.
But your feelings, whether you're sad, whether you're happy, whether all right, you're glad, whether or not you're proud, right? All these things, all right, these are feelings. They're not emotions, or excuse me, the other way around. These are emotions. They're not feelings in the sense of other aspects that are a reaction to stimuli.
Yes, they are.
You
Yeah.
can become sad just thinking about things.
If you're happy, you feel happy. If you're sad, you feel sad.
All right,
That's why they're called feelings
But
and
you
emotions.
can create those by just thinking about things and saying this makes me sad. Things that don't even exist.
Yeah, but you're dancing with semantics here.
Perhaps
Well, emotions,
to an
but
extent.
emotions are generally associated with the bodily reactions, like your neurotransmitters, your epinephrine, which would be, with fear.
But you can control your emotions, and you can actually eradicate them in certain circumstances, depending upon the way things are. People have that capability.
Yes.
Now,
Look at
can
Victorian.
they take
seriously.
it too far?
Nomad, not making fun of you here, but you are right. Look at Victorian England, and they controlled their emotions. They didn't get rid of them. They didn't suppress them. They controlled them.
Some of the Victorian.
I don't know. They had some devious, secret.
Oh, they let
desires.
them loose
if you look
behind
at,
closed.
sexual.
Yeah, like everybody else, you control them and you let them go in privacy.
Oh yes,
Right, but those are once again that is what people focus on are the outer edges of the thing, not the average or the normal, what we would consider normal. And when you start talking about society and the fact that we have a duality of our nature, all right, as individuals and as social creatures, right now the problem is that the ascendance of the individual has gotten out of control.
Absolutely.
And no one is reining them in, saying, look at the damage you're doing to society. You've chosen to do this because you're not reining yourself in for society. And I want to say one more thing.
Exploiting it.
I want to say one more thing. Love, the definition of love is something that people have misunderstood. Sure, lust is something that's a part of all this, but to be honest, love involves self-sacrifice. So it's more of a thought process, right, than a feeling. Yes, it's attached to emotions and so forth, but you've got to sit up there and be willing to self-sacrifice in order to demonstrate love.
And love also involves putting aside time, commitment, deliberately going out of your way to understand another person.
Gus, Shirati has made a point. She sent me a whole load of stuff detailing the direct definition of emotions and feelings. I agree with you, Han. I'm not in any way actually arguing anything that you've sent me. I'm letting these people actually give their opinions on it.
Once again, Jensen. You're busy listening to someone who's a cyborg. Does that make any sense?
She is not a sideboard.
Actually, no, it's true. There's no beer on top of her. But according to Doku, we should be listening to her. After all, robots, don't they give opinions that people should listen to, Doku?
Yeah, but if Captain Kirk was here, he'd make her explode.
Doku is a patchouli-smelling freaking hippie. You gonna listen to him too?
It's
a joke. It's a joke.
I'm about to come for both of you, but all right. So, but back more on a more serious note of what we're talking about. So you're talking about controlling feelings or emotions, whatever you want to call them. I really don't care about your dictionary definition, to be a blunt. No offense, but we're gonna get bogged down in semantics and shit, and I don't have the time for that. What are you going to control those feelings or emotions with? You do it with logic.
Yep.
I'm not saying you completely cut it out and ignore it completely. If you can't control it, if you cannot use logic, if you cannot look at things from a logical standpoint and realize I'm acting emotional, I'm acting irrational, I'm acting like an idiot. If you're incapable of doing that, well, guess what? You're going to end up like the freaking radical left that thinks there's 57 fucking genders in the damn world. and somehow I can jump off the 90th floor of a damn building and pretend that I have wings, and somehow I won't fucking hit the ground and splatter to death because I feel like I'm a bird.
I know somebody who can do that, but he's a reporter for a major metropolitan newspaper.
Well, I hope he didn't. I hope he didn't make too much of a mess on the sidewalk for the people that had to come clean it up.
No, he didn't. But he banged his head off the moon.
That was silly of him.
Oh, so he just believed that gravity wasn't a thing. I hope he teaches me the trick.
No, he knows gravity's a thing. He can just fly.
Batman?
Either way, my point. Sorry, Jensen. I'll be done. I'll be done after this. My point is, your emotions, your feelings aren't that fucking important. If you can't figure out how to control them, if you can't figure out how to juxtapose them against rational, logical, reasonable thought, you are nothing but a child.
They have to
exactly.
Be
and another thing that you use to control your emotions is understanding that every action you ever take has consequences and what those consequences may be.
All I wanted to say was Batman DMs. Do carry on, everyone. That's all I wanted to say.
Batman DMs. Mm-hmm. You know what, though? I feel like not being allowed to fail has created such a huge problem. There's so much to learn from failing. And when you don't fail and learn to try again and you get your trophy, that's a problem.
Yes, it is. In fact, truth be known, we learn most of what we know from our failures rather than our successes.
I won't disagree at all on that one. Case. I mean, I agree with both of you 100%, because again, if you don't fail at anything, I mean, how are you going to learn? I mean, I guess maybe you could read a book and be like, yeah, 2 + 2 = 4, 3 × 3 is 9. This is how you write the letter A. This is how you write the letter B. You're not going to learn anything through and repeat the motions. Like, at that, you want to talk about a cyborg or a robot? Yeah, you're basically programming someone to be a cyborg or a robot and just repeat what you've been told. But you never teach someone how to think. You never teach them how to, write a real sentence. You never teach them anything more complicated than what somebody else has already done. You can never learn or grow when you utilize that approach.
At the end of the day, the term teaching could actually be alternated with one programming. And, well, it's not like programming has any connection to anything we're talking about now, does it?
Well, and that's the thing a lot of people I've noticed don't really talk about in regards to how the public school system was set up. But it was I forget the actual name of it. I think it's someone help me out here. It was back in the 1800s. It was specifically in Germany. It was a particular type of educational system.
Sorry, I don't know, mate.
I'm sure I'll remember at some point in time. Greek. No, it wasn't the Greek one.
It's a something school, which is where they taught by rote because they wanted to teach children to be workers.
Yeah.
Well, it's specifically this one. It was an extension of that, and it came about in Germany and Prussia. And it was done not to teach people how to think, but it was adherence to a schedule, adherence to authority, and only giving them the basic skills that they need in order to, if a machine breaks down, then you have to repair it. This is how you operate the machine. Managers had higher levels of education, but they weren't teaching people, arts. They weren't teaching people critical thinking. It was literally basically vocational training.
Yeah, that's a school of teaching which is used in our schools in the practical classes, metalwork and woodwork. What you would Americans call shop.
Yeah,
that's where it works the best.
But that's the entire way, even up to what passes for higher education nowadays, is really nothing more than that same sort of process. Except they're trying to pass it off as we're teaching you how to critically think, but They're really not. They're just teaching you how to think the way that they want you to think. It's no different than I'm going to break this machine 10 times and you're going to fix it 10 times. It's
They've gone back to that now.
It's conditioning.
If I may, just for a moment. Thank you for coming on, Nomad. That was very nice of you.
Yes, thank you, Nomads.
Thanks, Nomad.
No, they've gone back to that kind of thing in modern schools because they don't teach kids how to think. They don't teach kids how to question. I've told you and Jensen this a lot, many times, but Syntax hasn't heard this.
Okay.
I mean, I was born in '64, so I left school in 1980, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I was at school, we were calculators were just coming in, and we weren't allowed to use them in maths class at all.
Yeah.
In fact, if you had a digital watch that had a calculator function, you had to hand it in.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to do all the working out down the side of the page. So I asked the maths teacher one day, why can't we use calculators? Surely because we can get the answer quickly that way. I'm not interested in that. Even if you get the problem wrong, I want to see you working out, because your working out tells me how well you understand the process. And what I'm trying to teach you is how to understand and interpret the process. And that was the same in every class that I was in. You were taught how to think, how to question, how to learn. You're not taught that in schools anymore.
No.
It's very true. People don't, at least in our education system right now, they're not taught they're taught that 2 plus 2 equals 4, but they're not taught that 1 plus 1 equals 2. So,
yeah, but they're not taught why 2 plus 2 equals 4. And that's more important than knowing the answer.
Yeah. Exactly. There's a really good analogy for this, and I've seen people use it, and I personally like it because I like to cook, because it makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Are you by any chance interested in chemistry?
I am, but I suck at trying to break it down in the sense of like doing moles and equations and shit. Like, I understand it from what's the term I'm looking for? I understand like the philosophy and the science behind it, but you can't. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to sit down and like actually write a equation and explain things to you.
Because that's one thing my chemistry teacher used to tell us. The cooking and chemistry are almost identical.
Oh, they are. They very much are. I'm glad you brought that up, because it's the exact reason I'm going to state what I'm going to state right now. Most people won't understand why you can take a steak and coat it in salt and put it in a refrigerator for 24 hours, and it results in a steak that actually retains more moisture than if you just cooked it straight out of the bag.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get it. They think the salt's going to make it drier. It's going to just pull out all the moisture.
No, the salt's going to pull all the moisture out of the air around it.
And what that's gonna do is that the moisture that gets pulled out of the meat is going to dissolve. Yeah, it's going to dissolve the salt, and that salt is going to create a moisture barrier. So when you actually go to cook it, it's going to prevent that moisture from actually leaking out of the meat, because a moisture barrier has been created because you allowed the salt to penetrate into the meat. And most of that moisture doesn't come from the water that's in the steak. It comes from the fat that gets dissolved and broken down when the steak itself is exposed to heat. That's where the moisture comes from. The salt penetrating into the muscle fibers of the steak retains that moisture because you have all of that salt inside the muscle fibers. It's actually going to make the steak more juicy. It's not going to dry it out.
Well, you've destroyed my illusions. I thought it was sorcery. The amount of short order cooks I burnt at the stake, I now feel guilty.
Just point out, I'm now feeling hungry.
No, you're exactly right, though, don't you?
But that's the thing. Most people don't think about it like that. They just think the salt's it's just going to pull out the moisture, and the moisture is just going to somehow
Most people don't.
disappear.
Yeah, most people don't think about it like that because most people aren't interested in it like that. Most people aren't going to be affected one way or the other by that knowledge. It works. That's all they want to know.
Well, because they don't think about it. Period. It shouldn't be that difficult to think about. Salt absorbs moisture. Well, salt doesn't absorb moisture. Salt draws it out, but it also forms a blocker. It forms a barrier. It keeps moisture in.
Yeah, because salt cannot absorb moisture.
And that's the reason, like when you see people crust a fish, and you just see like, holy crap, why is this fish just crusted in salt? It's going to be super salty. And then they take the salt off after they bake it, and it doesn't taste salty. It's because the salt never penetrated into the fish. It just kept the moisture from getting out.
Gentlemen, something has been brought to my attention by Shirati. I thought Syntax was supposed to be ranting. Why are we going on to discussing the finer points of cooking? Can we get back to why liberals are assholes, or
Yeah, come on, man.
are we doing a cooking show?
That is a good point. Syntax.
Yeah, and hello, gay Jedi female.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I had to. My
No
partner
worries.
did snacks. I left the steak, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, you had to duck out to take care of the tiny human.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep her alive.
No problem. And
That's
while we're
generally a
talking
good
food
thing.
for a sec, Doku, have a look at the DM I sent you. Yes, that is gold flake. You'll see.
Oh, is that where they put the actual gold flake on food?
Yeah, it's a gimmick and a really annoying one.
Don't
Yeah.
know why they do it. I do not understand. It makes no
One,
sense.
one thing about food before we go back to the rants.
Mhm.
Nouveau cuisine. That's where you pay 4 times as much for 4 times less.
That's the one. And he's right.
And it's only rich idiots who do it.
2 beans, 3 peas, and a tiny quarter-inch slab of meat.
Well,
£5,000.
How did Monsieur find his steak? Oh, I moved a French fry, and there it was.
Yep.
And back on the
Roddy
rant.
wants to hear me rant.
Yeah, come on, let's rant.
Oh, where should we start? Oh,
The question
Okay,
is, where
I'll
do you
start you
want to
off.
start?
I'll start you off. Liberals are taking over. What should we do about it?
what's taking over?
Liberals are taking over America. In your opinion, what should be done?
And you can't move back to England.
No.
I don't want to.
Well, that's your
And
mistake, by the way.
I actually think that they may, I don't know what it's going to take, but I see self-implosion happening. I think that you've got the more socialist agenda, and then you've got your more traditional Democratic Party in the United States. And I think that they're at huge odds. You've got like the Bernie Sanders camp. You've got the AOC camp.
You had the Bernie Sanders camp, but apparently 2 fat black girls walked in and took it off him.
This is also true.
Oh, and you know what? It's very interesting because, well, you don't see much hate towards anyone in the BLM, even though, you know, there's reasons for people to be concerned with their finances and
Oh, they've been thoroughly outed. I mean, come on, mansions.
yes, exactly.
And the idiots are still supporting them.
I don't understand though. Have these people not been to Baltimore? These people that are saying that, you know, give the power back to the black community and they'll do right by the black community. Look at Maryland and Baltimore and Detroit and all these cities that have, you know, a majority of the people in power are, you know, African American, black, and they're terrible. They're corrupt. And I just don't understand. It's baffling to me. But I see self-implosion possibly happening. I just don't see how you can maintain the trajectory that we're headed on.
You can't.
In your opinion, do you think it would be beneficial if America did split, i.e., the leftists taking the coast,
Like
which seemed to be
California.
one of the predominant ideas, and the middle of America, i.e., the red states, being their own separate part? In your opinion, remember, this is only your
My
opinion.
opinion. Yeah.
Yes.
No, I completely disagree.
Oh.
I think it would be horrendous. I just read, well, actually, it's an audiobook.
That's
It
a
was
question.
Wait a minute, Batman.
Lincoln on leadership, and it was just talking about his struggles throughout the Civil War, all that we've fought for. I think if you have a country that cannot sit with the ideals of the other half of the country, if you can't find commonality, if you can't come to compromise, I think that means that you have a larger systemic problem. And even if you split, it's just a matter of time before you divide yourselves even further, because that's what we do as humans, right? We divide
Balkanization.
Yes, absolutely. So I think maybe people would feel better if they didn't have to associate with people who had different viewpoints than they did. But I think it would
It's
be
unhealthy.
Yes, exactly. I think it's a cop out.
Yeah. My question is, I've got two questions actually. One was based on Jensen's initial question. Middle America, the red states, isn't that where the vast majority of industry is and pretty much all of food production is?
Food production, yes. Industry is more towards the coast with
So basically,
Pennsylvania, etc.
So basically, the rest of America would starve.
Pretty much, yes.
But my own question. Damn. Yeah. Would you agree that for humans to be at their best, we need a measure of hardship, something to struggle against?
Yes.
Difficulty to overcome.
I would agree, but could I possibly suggest what would be beneficial for humanity is an adversary? If we have something to target against, that's when we actually become our best.
Yeah. Oh, another one I was going to ask.
I think that's you get people banding together if you have a common enemy, but I think you can also have a common struggle and
a common goal.
Yes, common goals, common struggles.
That was Roddenberry's idea, initially with Star Trek, a common goal, bringing it together. But another one is, this is related to your answer. During the 70s and the 80s, the West, Europe, the United States, Australia, New Zealand, Western civilization was strong, right? Force to be reckoned with.
Yes.
We got little to no trouble from the Middle East.
Yep.
Now we're weak, and the Middle East is pushing us around.
I think it's a matter of them being emboldened.
Yeah.
And I think that it's not just the Middle East. I mean, I think Putin was emboldened by Afghanistan with the withdrawal because it was just such a shit show.
Yep.
Putin's the type who would attack. Who would have done that even if the West was still strong?
Based on the dates that you suggested, mate, what was the thing that was holding the West together? You might want to look at Soviet Union at this point. With my suggestion going back again to exactly the common enemy. Again, we go back to my point in that. That was all all yours.
Damn it, Jensen, that makes sense.
Sorry.
Yeah, actually, there was strangely enough, it was a BBC program called Sleepers. These two Soviet spies were sent in the 60s into England. One was to infiltrate the working class and work his way up the trade unions. The other one infiltrated the upper class and worked his way up into the finance section. But the thing is, they weren't sent there to destabilize these things, but to keep the West strong. Because the Soviet leaders at the time knew that to keep Russia strong, Russia needed an equally strong opponent.
Yeah.
and it also kept the world balanced and safe.
Yep. It's true. You know,
The funny
that's
thing is,
unfortunately
during the Cold War, the world was a lot more stable than it is now.
yes. Again, going back to my having a particular enemy for the rest of the planet to actually go against. And if you're wondering, well, what about the Soviets? Well, they actually had Western society to stand against.
And China.
And China. And China had the Soviet and the West. If humanity doesn't have an enemy to target, we become what we've got right now. I mean, looking at it technically, the Middle East could end up being the big bad guy. The problem is for them to actually take the power to be the big bad guy, they've got to defeat the other big bad guys that are in that area. And to put it bluntly, I can't really imagine the Middle East doing anything that Russia isn't capable of dealing with, whether it be absolutely horrifying or not. And I completely agree with you, Seth. Happy 420 to the lot of you.
Actually, it's 24.
I know, but I'm modifying it for the Americans.
I'm not.
I know. I'm being nice. It happens.
Sort them and their backwards calendars.
Wait. What? You guys have a different weed day?
No.
No, we don't have a weed day, and B, it's actually the 20th of the 4th, not the 4th.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just about every other country in the world puts the day before the month.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
It's because America, after independence, developed in relative isolation. I'm not saying you guys do it wrong. You just do it different.
Yeah. What you do wrong is you drive on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah.
No.
Yes,
No.
you do. Actually, from a practical side, you definitely do. Because if you drive on the left-hand side, the steering wheel is on the right-hand side of the car, right? And most humans are right-handed. So it's
generally.
Yeah, it's more advantageous to have the right-hand side available to look into oncoming traffic than the left-hand side.
You act as if we're the only ones, though. Germany drives the same way.
Yeah,
And
but they've
what
all
more
been
proof do you need?
they've all been influenced by when Napoleon was on the go. So you're basically driving on the French side of the road.
This is also true. Remember that the whole point originally when it comes to the travelling was because, again, going back to the right-handed individual, they would draw their sword from the left to attack to the right.
Yep.
Well, that is why England does the left-to-right driving, whereas America does the right-to-left driving.
Wait. What about France? Which way do they?
Well, we don't care. They're French.
Well, I know. So whoever drives on
They
the
drive on the
side
right.
of France is wrong.
Yes.
Correct. They are.
Yes. They drive on the same side as you do.
Oh, damn
Like
it.
like I said, that
So
that
sorry
was
about
spread
that.
over the world by Napoleon.
Yes. I'm
Yes,
so sorry for you for that.
You drive on the French side of the road.
Well, I don't know. You guys just you guys just aren't progressive enough.
Yes.
Shut up, hippie.
I saw a picture of Doku. And he was so different than I thought you were going to look like. I thought you were going to look like a clean-cut intellectual.
No,
Oh, good God,
that
no.
is
I've never accused him of being an
what?
intellectual.
Why do you think we call him Osama bin Doku?
I was wondering
no.
when you were actually going to bring that one out, Batman.
Oh, if you didn't do that out, actually, I'd point out he's also known as Buddy Christ.
Yeah.
That,
But you can actually imagine Doku running onto a plane wearing a suspicious-looking vest, couldn't you?
I don't want that
His
mental
beard
image
is
at
like
any point.
ginger. He's got a ginger beard.
Yes, he's a bit of a ginger beer,
I
isn't he?
thought I'm the only ginger here.
Hey,
You're
Jensen,
ginger too?
Oh, what do you mean? I've always been ginger. Yes,
I'm flesh-coloured.
You're
Yes,
flesh colored.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
he gleams in the bright light. Let's put it that way.
My hairstyle is more hair, no hair.
just got to sit back and drink my beer and talk about the Randy Dandio.
Yes.
Yes, Jensen, wouldn't you agree that Doku is a ginger beer?
He is Possibly, but I mean, I would never suggest that there was anything to do with him being a ginger beer. After all, that would be a person who likes to ram whiskey bottles up there. Oh, that's a good point, Doku. I should
Wait,
keep
what?
quiet, shouldn't I?
Wait, what?
Nothing.
It's Cockney rhyming slang.
No, it's not. It's actually
What am I
incredibly accurate,
missing?
isn't it, Doku?
No, ginger beer is Cockney rhyming
Oh.
slang.
Yes.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I was
Ginger
saying
beer.
ginger beard. His beard has like ginger.
I
in it.
know what you
Face
were
fur.
saying. I know what you were saying.
Okay. What is
Actually,
this about
he does
whiskey
actually.
bottles?
Actually, he doesn't actually have a beard. He regularly eats live tribbles.
I know
That's a
what
horrific
Doku
thought.
eats. He posts pictures on Twitter, and it looks delicious.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
You can say anything you like about Doku, and I do regularly. But
Oh,
the
yes.
stuff he but she posts when it comes to his cooking, I've got nothing but respect for that dude. I'm being very serious. I'm saying that in front of witnesses. Nothing but respect, sir.
I know. I
Granted, I
literally
wouldn't eat
drool
it,
on
but-
my phone when I'm going through Twitter. Oh.
Oh,
Fair point.
I do appreciate it, and I still think I am an absolute shit fucking cook. I have a long way to go, but cooking is fun. It's creativity.
Yes,
It's
I've
private.
recently, because I had to go to the food bank early on last month. I've
Mhm.
been having fun learning how to cook rice.
Yeah, good choice. Rice is oddly
very
rice is a
versatile.
skill. It really is.
Rice is kind of a pain in the ass to cook, if we're gonna be honest about it. Right? Rice
That's
is
not.
annoying.
It's just getting the right balance.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yes.
really, when it comes down to cooking rice, it's really all about temperature and moisture control. That
Or an
And-
Instapot. An Instapot
Doku.
is a beautiful thing.
Microwave.
Doku, you're being asked, what are you drinking?
oh well. First off,
It's probably
apparently I'm also blonde Jesus now, so
Well-
I'll add that to my resume.
I
and-
strongly suspect with his Middle Eastern origins, it's probably something with goat's milk.
Well, I hate to disappoint you, but I'm drinking Youngling.
It sounds Middle Eastern enough.
It, it's the oldest American brewery, Batman.
Actually,
you mean last week. Gotcha.
Doku, you regularly imbibe a Middle Eastern drink.
True.
I don't know. You guys aren't living until you try 99 bananas.
No,
Syntax,
no, don't do
Syntax
that.
probably regularly imbibes a Middle Eastern drink as well.
Quite possibly.
No,
Why 99 bananas?
99 bananas. Oh, I recently tried 99 apples. It tastes like a green Jolly Rancher.
Syntax, do you
That-
drink coffee?
That's
No,
just-
I drink
Ah.
tea.
that
Good
shit
girl.
is
No.
and Syntax. That is not proper booze. That's just fermented sugar.
That's
It
what booze
actually-
is.
Okay, so yes, normally I drink like just drinks with vodka, diet drinks, because there's a lot of calories. But yes, if I do have something, I'm telling you, 99 bananas.
In all fairness,
It's good.
almost all alcohol is basically just fermented sugar.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah,
Oh.
but you have to get the sugar properly. You don't just dump sugar into a freaking pot and then put some artificial flavoring into it and call it proper alcohol. That's not how that works.
This is fair, but then again,
No,
I
what you
consider
do, what you
all of
do is, what you do is you dump.
Batman, one sec. I'll
No.
go to you, trust me. But Doku, you guys are all pussies anyway. If you're going to drink anything, drink absinthe. All right, Batman, all yours, mate.
It's a city's drink. I'm from the northeast of England. Remember, we invented drinking. No, but if you want to make alcohol, what you do is right. You don't just dump sugar into a vat and putting some artificial flavouring.
Mhm.
You dump fruit into a vat, add yeast, seal it, and wait.
That would be better than anything 99. Anything 99.
No judgments.
I'm judging, damn it.
End of the day. End of the
Oh.
day, all alcohol is good alcohol.
It all depends on how it's used. Yes.
Just real quick, Sith Straight Male, you're talking about risotto. There's a guy on YouTube, Chef Jean Pierre. Watch his video on risotto. You'll never fuck it up. It's really easy as long as you figure out the proper technique. The one thing they won't tell you, if you want to do risotto good and proper, steam it for 5 minutes before you actually put it into the pot, and don't use water for the love of God. Use broth,
I was
because
going to say, aren't you meant to use gravy?
well, yeah, you always want to use a decent chicken broth, or you could use any type of broth really, but you want to steam it just to get so the rice doesn't burn and stick to the bottom of the pan. You don't want to steam it to the point where it starts absorbing moisture. You're just trying to get it essentially to the point where the grains don't really stick together. Yeah. When you go through the cooking process, it will kind of have that. If you can rattle the steamer and it makes noise like a baby rattler, it's not done yet. If it doesn't make noise, it's good. Then you drop it into the pot, and you only do enough moisture to just barely start to cover the rice, and then on a low heat, wait for the rice to absorb the moisture, and then add more in as you go. It takes fucking forever, but if you put more moisture than that in, it's gonna turn into a porridge.
Agree. Well, I think we have successfully bashed the living hell out of the Liberals and then started discussing food, which is a fascinating concept. But then again, I'm actually totally okay at the idea of turning Liberals into food. Just making that statement very clear.
And we know your stance on that one, Jensen.
Exactly. Hey.
Yes.
When the weather is cold, burn more Liberals.
Yes.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Well, before I say it, are you about to shut down the stream?
Yes.
Jensen, before I say anything, are you about to shut down the stream?
I will be shutting down the stream very shortly, yeah.
Okay, you lot, clear off. Time to go. We're closing up now. You're not got homes to go to. Piss off. There you go.
Okay, and Syntax, if you think that was bad, try this one. Legalize cannibalism. Feed the world.
To Jensen. Yeah,
Doku,
Jensen.
do you have anything you want to say, mate?
I don't know. You both come up with very creative ideas for blowjobs, so what more can I say?
Perfectly reasonable.
Yeah.
Tell me, I need to up my game.
Doku, never get a blowjob from a female cannibal.
I don't know, it adds to the fun.
Not for Doku.
Fair
I
point.
don't know. I don't mind when guys eat.
Hey, I'm not going to argue. Well, in that case, ladies, gentlemen, or whatever else you want to call yourself, thank you very much for coming out and listening to this absolute drivel that is us talking. I mean, sometimes we're fun, sometimes we're interesting, and most of the time we're just us. Nice to see you all. Bye-bye, everyone.
See you all.
Bye-bye.
Go away now.
Yeah, go on. Piss off.